Okay, so we're good to go. Welcome, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. It's time for our regularly scheduled Monday, February 28th, 2022 council meeting. Ask the clerk to certify the meeting notice.
This meeting has been noticed in accordance with Idaho Code 74-204.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Heller.
Present.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen.
Here.
Councilmember Page.
Here.
Thanks. Next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you stand and join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, changes to the agenda. We don't have any from staff. Anything come up that I don't know about? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would move that we approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk call roll.
Councilmember Heller.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Page.
Yes.
Thank you. Under item F, special business, we have our monthly staff reports and quarterly financial statements. You always have access, of course, to the department heads if you have a question on their reports, but is there anything that needs to come up in the meeting this evening?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
given the fact that we are in unprecedented times for sure, but we, every department, with the exception of development services, I believe, it is reporting resignations, retirements, and a lack of resource. Is there, should we be considering a marketing effort to promote the city as an employer? And is there, even if it isn't an immediate solution, if we began marketing the city as an employer, when things do begin to change, I think we would all agree, we'd like to have the option for high quality talent. And I believe some younger, given the fact that so many folks are retiring. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be prudent to begin a social media campaign, again, marketing the city as a great employer, providing fair and equitable compensation packages, and to start attracting younger employees, not to discriminate against older employees, but to kind of get ahead of some of this retirement depletion in the workforce, and certainly potentially motivate folks to move back into the workforce, potentially part-time folks in the police department. I find that this is really important, and I'm concerned about what the city looks like 2 years, 4 years, 10 years down the road, and what if there is, and what can we do to help promote us and put the city in the best position we can be to attract and retain high quality talent for the city.
Thanks for bringing that up. That will be a topic on my next staff agenda, senior staff agenda, and let us kick that around and get back to you. Fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay. Lisa, are you making a note of that for the staff meeting? Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on staff reports?
I had one question for Jenna. This is probably just be a little bit new to some of these staff reports. I was just looking at the permit activity between January. There's no new commercial, no new single family homes, no. Is that common for that time of year, or are you seeing a decrease because of just the inflation and finding contractors and financing and all of that? Are you just seeing fewer permits, or is this just a normal January thing?
Mayor, Councilmember Jacobs, it's likely just a normal January thing. When it gets really cold, people don't want to pull new permits. partially because they can't put their foundation in right away. There may be other permits that are going on in that time frame. Maybe they're trying to scrub their site or get rid of and clear out their site. But it's not surprising to me if there weren't new building permits. We kind of see different arcs where we'll see a lot of development applications maybe come in. And so people can really hit those springtime building permit.
So people don't apply based on a lag of from the time they apply to get is it approval that quick? Where this January, March, which it would be, that's why I guess I figure if I had a project that I wanted to do in the spring, I'd be applying in January.
That's a great question as well, Councilmember Jacobs. Where the numbers that you're seeing are actual issued permits. And so those are ones that are already
Gotcha.
ready to be in construction.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further? Okay. We'll move down to item G. We have resolution 1113-22, providing for the destruction of public records. It's in your packet, council. This is a routine item that comes up maybe quarterly.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
were we going to address special business too?
did I go by some? Oh, yeah, I meant to address both those. I'm sorry. Is there any questions or comments on the fiscal 2022 first quarter financial statement? That's October through the end of December.
I did not have a
Oh,
question.
okay.
I just wanted to make sure we
No.
provided that opportunity.
Yeah, okay. Okay, very good, thank you. While we're talking about this, when we do our second quarter financial, that's our 6 month, we'll actually do a more formalized mid-year budget review. And at that time, that's kind of a measuring point, a base that I like to evaluate how we think we might finish the year. At least our best guess to see if we're on track and what things, sometimes we're going to spend more in the second half of the year because some of the major purchases or some seasonal kinds of purchases we hold off on until, that have some timing component to them. So anyway, but thanks for bringing that up. We'll go ahead now and discuss under ordinances, resolution, contracts, resolution 1113-22, and this is providing for the destruction of public records. Again, it's a routine matter. Mr. Wadhams has developed our public records, a policy dealing with the destruction of public records, so we know what we can purge and what we need to keep.
I just had one question, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
What does semi-permanent mean?
Less than permanent. No,
Seems like a contradiction of terms.
yeah, Councilmember Jacobs, that's actually a good question. It's defined in Idaho code as something that you have to keep a particular period of time. They added a couple of years ago, they added historical that has to be kept in perpetuity. Everything else can be scanned in and then they're kept for different periods of time. So semi-permanent, you got to keep forever, although you can put it electronically now. Semi-permanent, it depends. It could be 5 years, 15 years, 20 years.
So there's a schedule for.
There's a record. It's what we call the record
I was
retention.
like,
schedule.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
what that means. Thank you.
Of course, always.
Okay. I understand the question though. It's either permanent or not. There is no semi, but there is, I guess, in the code.
Yeah, I know, like,
Okay, we've got the matter before the council. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 1113-22 for the destruction of public records.
I would second.
You've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk call roll.
Councilmember Jacobs,
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Page,
Yes.
Councilmember Heller.
Yes.
Next item, G2, again, Resolution 1114-22. Lisa, just for those that are listening in, you want to give a very quick synopsis of why this is on the agenda?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we looked at our parking ticket process and decided that the best route to deal with unpaid parking tickets would be to go through a collection services. In the past, we have let them go to court, and then the person would have to go to court, pay court costs, and it was actually a pretty good drain on our staff as well as the court staff. So we felt this was a better mechanism. We will also use this service for the collection of dog impound fees that are go unpaid. We just have a handful of smaller items that need to be collected in some fashion. And we found this was the best way. We did look at other jurisdictions, and the Bonneville collections was used widely throughout the valley. It does not cost the city anything, so we will submit an item for collection. The fee will be added on top of that. They will collect that fee from the individual, and we will get 100% of what we submitted.
Mr. Mayor, can I just add a quick point of order? And that is, of course, if somebody wants to fight their parking ticket, which happens, we have 3 set for trial right now. Of course, somebody wants to exercise the due process right to go to trial, we transfer it over to court. But if they don't pay it, that's when we send it to collections. And it's and that will be a more efficient use, I think.
And we do send, we think is a very clear letter. Your options are to pay. If you do not pay, it'll be sent to collections, or if you want to contest this ticket, here's how you follow that process. Given all their options.
Under the Fair Credit Act, we have to serve them with notice before we actually send it over to a collection agency. So sometimes the trick is actually trying to find where they are, which is a difficulty sometimes. Also, I'll just for the record, if somebody wants to go to trial, that's fine. But our code says if you want to go to trial, your $25 ticket goes into a $50 ticket plus court costs. So due process, if you lose, does cost more money.
Okay, any other questions? I guess nobody asked a question, but anyway. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve resolution 1114-22, a resolution approving a service agreement for collection services between Garden City and Bonneville Billing and Collections.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Jorgensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Page,
Yes.
Councilmember Heller,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, item G3. This is item would authorize me to enter into an agreement with Native Landscape Services for landscaping services. I'm on the heels of Councilmember Jorgensen's discussion a few minutes ago. Maybe this is that maybe it's why we brought this here, brought this forward at this time, Colin.
Mayor Evans, it happened to just play perfectly into what we're asking for this evening and what we need to discuss. I totally agree with you, Councilmember Jorgensen, that it's a tough environment right now. And this has been played to death. We've talked about this 1,000 times. Everyone's dealing with it. But for the time being, we're going to have to work around it. And this is one solution that we've come up with is taking the parks maintenance, and this will include all of the parks. The only building it will not include is City Hall. We will retain that. All the rest of the parks that will take care of mowing, fertilizer, monitoring the irrigation system. Some of the other little technical items, some of the irrigation parts and pieces will still fall on us, but the day-to-day maintenance would fall on a contracted vendor. This seems to be at this point the best way to handle this with the limited staff we have. And right now we have 2 full-time park staff, parks and facilities. Well, let's not forget that they also take care of this building, the library. They take care of some of 46th as well, where their shop is. It's too much actually for 2 people. So this kind of helps ease that burden a little bit, and it may work out well.
Do we actually save money? overhead count and all, everything else,
I-
burden and all that? I mean, it's actually cheaper to do this?
Mayor, Councilmember Jacobs, you can see the treasurer is shaking her head or nodding her head, yes. Yes, at this point, it may be, and this may be the ticket that, we did this in the past, quite a few years ago, right when I started working for Garden City. And obviously, it really falls, it falls on who it is that you contract to do the work. There are people who do a great job, and maybe those that don't quite do as well a job. So we feel pretty confident right now.
One question, it looked the way it was kind of presented in the packet, it was just kind of a lowest bid. You know, you had 3 bidders, you took the lowest bidder. Were there other criteria that were involved? I mean, just because I'm a little familiar with that, I mean, between the different low bid doesn't mean best quality. So I was just wondering what your vetting for that was, because that's the way it kind of came across.
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Jacobs, this is similar to when we go out for bids for large public works projects. According to state law, you have to take the lowest responsive bidder. And I got that word right because I got in trouble for saying it wrong one time before, so I meant I would never say that again. So, but yes, to answer your question, sometimes just because you're the lowest responsive bidder does not mean you're the highest quality. And and I'm not saying that that's the case right now. I'm just saying it could be, right? The problem with that is that you have to, if you're going to pull that card, you have to be able to prove it. And more times than not, this will end up in court. If it's a large public works project, somebody will contest it, and there has to be a valid reason, or it gets in the Charlie's area, and that's not good. So
Just a little bit different than the private sector.
absolutely it is, you bet. So I think the folks that we reached out to, number one, we appreciated that they were all in Garden City. They were all local businesses with some roots here. So I don't have any reason to doubt that Native, if we approve this evening, that they will not do a good job for us. Yeah.
Thank you. And the green belt, we still retain?
Mayor, the green belt, the city will maintain that, yes.
Okay. Any questions, any further questions of Colin? Okay, what's the pleasure of the council?
Oh, coffee.
Mr. Mayor, I would propose that we authorize Mayor Evans to enter into an agreement with Native Landscape Services for contract landscaping services for calendar year 2022 for an amount not to exceed $31,721.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Page,
Yes.
Councilmember Heller,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacobs,
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen.
Yes.
Thank you. Pardon me, that concludes the public portion of our meeting this evening. We do need to move into executive session for our standard topic of an update on our lawsuit with the Ada County Highway District. That is the suit they filed against us regarding the salt shed. So I entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we move to executive session in accordance with Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency, discuss legal ramifications and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated, after which the regular city council meeting will adjourn without a decision.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, clerk call roll.
Councilmember Heller,
Yes.
Councilmember Jacobs.
Yes.
Councilmember Jorgensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Page.
Yes.
Thank you. Those of you that have joined us remotely via Zoom, wish you a pleasant evening, and that concludes our public portion of the meeting.